Awaken Light Audio. Awaken your mind. Ignite your light.
Stay silent. Let success make the noise. What if I told you that silence, not shouting your dreams, was the missing piece to unlocking your greatest potential? Have you ever wondered why the most powerful people in the room are often the quietest? There's a reason behind their calm. And it's not just confidence. They thought you had nothing going on. But when you move in silence, you move in power. And when the time comes, your success will roar louder than any voice ever could. Have you ever felt the pressure to prove yourself? By speaking up, in a world where everyone is shouting, it's easy to think silence is weakness. But what if it's your greatest strength? In next chapter, we explore why silence isn't absence, it's presence. A presence rooted in wisdom, a voice that speaks. Only when it must, because it knows, the less you speak. The more power you preserve. True transformation often begins not in volume, but in stillness. Chapter 1. The Power of Silence. What if the power you're searching for isn't in how loud you can be, but in how still you can become? What if silence isn't emptiness, but alignment? What if your next breakthrough is hiding in the noise you refuse to turn down? In a world that never stops talking, silence is rebellion. Not the silence of fear, not the silence of suppression, but the silence of knowing that real power doesn't announce itself. We live in a time where self-worth is often measured by how much you post, how often you speak, how loud you shout. But silence whispers something different. I don't need to be seen to be powerful. I don't need to explain to be right. I don't need attention to feel whole. This chapter isn't about hiding, it's about harnessing the stillness. That gives you clarity. Harnessing the quiet that sharpens your intuition. Harnessing the pause that allows you to hear what most miss, the truth within. You don't need to broadcast your intentions to validate your growth. You don't need to narrate your process to feel progress, because the loudest voices often echo insecurity. But the stillest ones, they reflect mastery. And here's what most don't realize. Silence is a weapon. Silence is strategy. Silence is sacred. When you speak less, you observe more. You learn more. You grow faster. Every time you choose silence over reaction, silence over defensiveness, silence over performance, you choose self-respect over self-promotion. Think about it. The strongest trees grow in silence. The deepest rivers flow without noise. Silence is not absence, it's presence, intensified. You don't need applause to grow. You don't need permission to rise. You just need to trust that your quiet effort, day by day, is building something they'll one day have to hear. And when that moment comes, you won't have to speak a word. Your success will do the talking. I have a practice. Embrace the power. Pause today. Try this. Before responding, before explaining, before proving. Pause. Take a deep breath. Let your stillness speak before your words do. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Or is this just noise? Silence is not empty. It's full of answers, and every time you choose it, you reclaim your power. Remind yourself, I don't speak to be seen. I don't perform to be praised. I stay silent, not because I'm unsure, but because I'm becoming. Chapter 2. Energy, Focus, and Strategy. What if your energy is more valuable than your time? What if focus, not force, is what actually creates transformation? And what if strategy is not about doing more, but doing less with precision? Imagine all the energy you spend trying to explain, defend, or validate yourself. What if you redirected that same energy inward? Silence sharpens your focus. It makes you attentive to life's subtleties. In this chapter, we'll reflect on how people who dominate conversations rarely dominate outcomes, and we'll dive deep into how silence is the ultimate weapon for those who seek clarity, control, and conscious progress. When you're silent, you preserve your energy. Instead of explaining yourself, defending your decisions, or trying to convince others of your worth, you redirect that energy toward building, growing, and evolving. It is in silence that clarity is born. It is in silence that you learn to observe, to listen, and to understand things most people miss. People who talk constantly rarely take time to listen. And if you're not listening, you're not learning. And if you're not learning, you're not growing. Every moment spent reacting, arguing, or seeking validation is a moment lost from your purpose. Silence gives you control. It teaches you patience. It strengthens your emotional intelligence. When you don't react to every comment or every criticism, you become grounded. You start choosing your battles wisely. And when people realize they can't provoke you, they can't distract you. They lose their power over you in a world obsessed with speed. We glorify hustle, but not all movement is progress, and not all effort is effective. We've been taught to grind, to chase, to stay busy, but busyness isn't always productivity. Sometimes it's avoidance in disguise. What really changes your life isn't how much you do, it's how intentionally. You direct your energy because your energy is your most limited currency, and the way you spend it shapes the life you will build. You don't need more hours, you need more clarity. You don't need to do everything. You need to know what actually matters and give it everything. Focus is not about restriction. It's about liberation from distractions, from noise, from the pressure to do it all, and strategy. Strategy is choosing your battles and letting go of what was never yours to fight. Think of a laser. It doesn't burn by being bright, it burns by being focused. Now think of your day, your attention, your energy. How much of it is scattered, responding to things that don't matter? How much of it is drained by conversations that lead nowhere? Scrolling that numbs, decisions that distract. Silence was your first weapon. Focus is your second. You don't rise by trying to be everything to everyone. You rise when you direct your power. Not just your time. Every master understands this. It's not the loudest who win, it's the most aligned. And alignment only comes when your energy, your focus, and your actions all point in one direction. This chapter is your call to sharpen dot, to stop leaking energy on proving, pleasing, and performing dot, to stop fighting battles that weren't assigned to your name. Your energy is sacred. Guard it like your future depends on it, because it does. Next practice, audit your energy. Take 10 minutes today. Write down what gave you energy. This week, what drained it? Where did your focus go? And was it worth the cost? Then ask yourself, if I only had energy for 3 things tomorrow, what would they be? Protect your focus like it's oxygen, because without it, even your best strategy dies. Gasping, talk to yourself. I don't need more time. I need more clarity. My energy is sacred. My focus is power, and my strategy is silence and precision. Chapter 3. Intentional Silence. What if the reason your vision hasn't grown root is because you've been exposing it too early? What if every time you shared your plan, you were giving away a piece of your power? And what if silence isn't hiding, but protecting what's sacred? Silence out of fear is submission, but silence by choice, that's power. This chapter is about mastering the art of intentional silence, the kind that protects your vision from premature exposure. You'll learn how withholding your plans is not secrecy, it's sacredness, and how sharing too early invites opinions that can derail even the strongest of dreams. But let's be clear, this silence we speak of, it's not about fear. It's not about holding back because of insecurity. It's about intentional silence, strategic silence, the kind of silence that says, I'm focused, I'm building, and I don't need applause while I'm still laying the foundation. Not everyone deserves access to your dreams. When you share too much, too soon, you expose your vision to criticism, doubt, and negativity. And while some of it may come from ignorance, some of it will come from jealousy, fear, and hidden competition. Some people will try to shrink your dreams, not because they're malicious, but because your dreams make them uncomfortable. See your vision because they've never dared to have one of their own. So they'll discourage you, not to harm you, but because they don't believe it's possible for themselves. Intentional silence is not avoidance. It's strategy. It's wisdom. It's knowing what to guard while it's still fragile. Too often, we reveal our dreams prematurely, not because we're ready, but because we're hungry for validation. We want someone to tell us it's a good idea. We want support. We want applause. But here's the truth. Not everyone deserves access to your becoming. Not because they're bad, but because they can't see what you see. Because your vision threatens their comfort. Because your growth reminds them of what they haven't started. And if you're not careful, you'll start shrinking to fit their fears. You'll start watering down your fire so others don't feel the heat. There are seasons where your silence is your sanctuary, where your goals are too fresh to survive. Outside opinions, where your identity is still forming and too sacred to be dissected. When you share too soon, you expose your process to energy it wasn't designed to carry. People will question your methods before they've seen your results. They'll doubt your direction before you've even finished the first mile. But when you stay silent, you stay sovereign. You give your ideas space to breathe. You let your actions speak in a language louder than words. Let them wonder, let them assume, let them talk. You're not hiding. You're building. You're not performing. You're protecting. 1. More practice. Create a silent zone. Choose one goal you're working on, and for the next 30 days, tell no one. Don't post about it. Don't seek encouragement. Don't invite feedback. Just do the work. Keep it between you and the process. Let it grow roots before it grows wings. Notice how your confidence rises. Notice how your clarity sharpens. Notice how your clarity sharpens. Notice how powerful it feels to move without needing to be seen. Tell yourself, I don't share to be validated. I don't speak to be understood. I protect what matters, because some visions grow best in silence. I don't need to be loud to be real. I don't need to be seen to be solid. I move in silence because I am building something sacred. Move in silence and let your success make the noise. Chapter 4. Trusting the process. What if the delays you hate are actually the preparation you need? What if life isn't punishing you, it's protecting you? And what if nothing's wrong with your pace? You're just trying to bloom before you're rooted. We're so obsessed with results that we forget the wisdom of the process. In silence, we find patience. In patience, we find strength. This chapter invites you to embrace the journey, even when it seems nothing is happening. Because sometimes, the loudest progress is the one that grows quietly beneath the surface. The kind no one sees until it changes everything. You don't need permission to evolve. You don't need an audience to grow. And you don't need to prove anything to anyone. When your actions speak, the world will listen. Let your discipline, your consistency, and your results be your microphone. Being silent doesn't mean you're not working. It means you're working without distractions. You're building with focus. You're preparing behind the scenes while the world is watching someone else who's busy talking. But when the moment comes and your breakthrough arrives, the silence you honored will echo in the sound of your success. We live in a culture obsessed with instant results, quick wins, viral success. But what we forget is this: anything that grows too fast without a foundation collapses just as fast. The most powerful transformations in life don't happen overnight. They happen underground, in the dark, in the silence, where no one claps, where no one sees. Where the only witness to your growth is you. You might feel stuck. You might feel overlooked. You might feel like nothing is happening. But don't confuse invisibility with inaction. Don't confuse the waiting room with a dead end. Sometimes the quiet seasons are the most critical, because that's where your roots grow deep. You're not behind, you're becoming. Think about the bamboo tree for years. It shows no visible growth, and then suddenly it skyrockets, feet in the air, almost overnight. But it wasn't overnight. It was underneath, rooting, preparing, strengthening. Your life is the same. Your vision might be buried, but it's not broken. Your potential might be unseen, but it's not unfelt. If you feel like you're in the dark, maybe you're being planted, not buried. Let the soil do its work. Let the stillness prepare you. Let the silence shape you, because the louder you demand results, the more you miss the miracle that happens in the pause. The next practice, redefine progress. Instead of asking, "Why is it taking so long?" ask, "What is life strengthening in me right now? What lesson am I being trusted to learn in the silence? If I believed this waiting had a purpose, how would I carry myself differently today?" Write your answers, then carry them like armor. Remember, I don't chase timelines. I don't force the harvest. I trust the season I'm in because I'm not late. I'm being layered. I'm not stalled. I'm being shaped. I'm not behind. I'm becoming. Chapter 5. Don't force it. What if the pressure you're applying is what's actually pushing your breakthrough away? What if trying to force alignment is the reason it keeps slipping through your fingers? And what if the very thing you're chasing was always meant to arrive when you stop chasing? We've all been taught to push harder, grind louder, but there's a cost to forcing what isn't meant for you. This chapter explores why some doors stay shut, not to punish you, but to protect you. You'll discover how nature itself never forces growth. Trees don't strain, rivers don't rush, yet they arrive exactly where they're meant to be. What if your path is just the same? Let's talk about force. Too many people chase success with a desperate grip. They believe that the harder they push, the faster things will happen. But what they don't realize is that true alignment can't be forced. When you push against the natural flow, you're not just exhausting yourself, you're sabotaging your journey. Forcing what isn't meant for you leads to stress, fatigue, and disappointment. It's like planting a seed and screaming at it too. Grow it doesn't work that way. Nature doesn't rush, and yet everything gets done. Trees don't hurry to grow, but they stand tall. Rivers don't force their flow, but they reach the ocean. The seasons change in perfect harmony without resistance. Why then do we think we must hustle and grind endlessly without pause or patience? Yes, hard work matters, but there's a difference between consistent action and desperate chasing. There's a difference between alignment and obsession. There's a hidden danger in the grind. Culture, we're taught that more force means more progress, that the harder we push, the faster we'll grow. That hustle is always the answer. But force isn't always forward. Sometimes it's resistance. Sometimes it's fear in disguise. Fear that if we stop forcing, everything will fall apart. But here's the truth. What's aligned never needs to be forced, and what's forced rarely stays. You can't scream a seed into bloom. You can't wrestle peace into your soul. You can't rush what life is still unfolding. And if you try, you'll exhaust yourself trying to control what was never yours to control. Look at nature. The rivers don't strain, yet they reach the ocean. The trees don't rush, yet they rise. The moon doesn't panic, yet it pulls entire tides. Why are you treating your life like an emergency? Why are you forcing what needs space to grow? Alignment is a current, not a command, and when you're in flow with it, everything clicks without resistance. But the moment you try to drag outcomes ahead of their time, they turn to dust in your grippy. You don't need to force your way forward. You need to surrender your need to control. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Another practice, release the grip. Take a moment today and ask, what am I forcing right now? What area of my life feels like a battle instead of a build? Where am I clenching, pushing, or obsessing instead of trusting? Now, breathe. Say to yourself, if this is meant for me, it will meet me where I'm aligned, not where I'm anxious. Then, Loosen your grip. Move forward, but without aggression. Pursue, but without panic. Prepare, but release the pressure. I don't need to force what's already mine. I don't chase. I align. I don't push. I prepare. Because what flows to me in peace is far stronger than what I chase in fear. Chapter 6. Preparation in Silence. What if your quiet season isn't punishment? It's preparation. What if the silence you fear is the soil where your strength is growing? And what if the work no one sees becomes the reason no one can ignore? You later, some of the most important moments in your life are invisible. They happen when no one's watching. They happen in silence. This chapter is about preparation, the unseen foundation of greatness. Like the bamboo tree growing roots before it rises, your silence may be the soil from which your future blooms. Don't underestimate what's forming just beneath the surface. Sometimes the delay you hate is the preparation you need. Sometimes the silence you fear is the protection you're being given. Life has a way of withholding what you want until you're truly ready to receive it. You may feel stuck, but you're being rooted. You may feel delayed, but you're being developed. There's a reason the bamboo tree spends years growing roots before it ever breaks through the soil. And when it does, it grows faster than any other tree. Why? Because the foundation was deep, silent, hidden. That's how your journey may feel. Like nothing's happening, but deep beneath the surface, everything is being prepared. We all want the spotlight, the validation, the moment where everything clicks and the world takes notice. But what we forget is this: the spotlight is earned in the shadows. You don't rise in public until you've built in private. The strongest foundations are hidden. The deepest growth is silent. And the most important work, it's done when no one is clapping. You see, everyone wants the harvest, but not everyone is willing to plant when it's lonely, to water when it's quiet, to keep showing up when nothing seems to be growing. But the truth is, you're always growing, even when it doesn't look like it, even when it doesn't feel like it. Progress isn't always visible, but it's always forming, especially in the silence. Think of the cocoon to the outside world. It looks like nothing's happening, still silent, UNMOVNG. But inside, wings are forming, cells are reshaping. A complete transformation is unfolding in total darkness. And when it's time, that butterfly doesn't ask for permission, it simply emerges. Already prepared, you are in your cocoon season. Don't curse the quiet, don't resist the hidden phase. This is where you're being reshaped for what's next. Next practice, make peace with the invisible. Take a moment today and journal. What silent work am I doing right now that no one sees? What strength am I building that can't be measured yet? If I trusted this silence was sacred, how would I treat it differently? Remind yourself, I'm not behind, I'm being built. I'm not lost, I'm being led. My preparation is sacred, even if it's unseen, because when the time comes, I won't rise by accident, I'll rise because I've been ready. Chapter 7. Becoming Unstoppable. What if the moment you stop needing applause is the moment you start becoming unstoppable? What if the secret isn't doing more, but becoming more? And what if the most powerful shift in your life is the one where you no longer need validation to move? You are unstoppable, not when the world applauds you, but when you no longer need its applause. In this chapter, we look at the transformation that happens when you no longer chase validation. You become driven by purpose, not praise. And in that shift, you become a force no one can ignore. When you no longer seek external applause, when you no longer need validation to feel worthy, you become unstoppable. Because you're no longer moving for the eyes of others. You're moving for your purpose. Work in silence, not for secrecy, but for sacredness. Let your dreams breathe without interference. Let your vision grow without contamination. Let your efforts mature in the hidden places where pressure and performance don't distort them. Remember, the sun doesn't chase planets. It simply shines, and everything revolves around it. Be the sun. Focus on becoming. Focus on shining. Focus on aligning with your highest self, and watch everything else fall into place. There's a point in every journey where something shifts. Stop checking who's watching. You stop waiting for signs. You stop negotiating with self-doubt. And instead, you decide to move. No matter what you decide to commit, even when it's quiet, you decide to keep going, even when no one claps. That's when you become dangerous, not to others, but to every version of you that used to quit. Being unstoppable has nothing to do with how loud you are. It's about how rooted you are when you're no longer shaken by rejection, when you no longer bend to fear, when your identity is no longer rented from opinions. That's when you realize nothing outside of you can stop what's built inside you. You don't need another motivational video. You don't need someone to remind you what you're capable of. You don't need a perfect plan or the right energy. You just need to remember who you are and who you've decided to become. Because discipline without identity becomes pressure. But discipline rooted in identity, that's power. You don't act strong, you become strength. You don't act confident, you embody conviction. You don't act like a leader, you lead, regardless of who follows. One more practice. Build from identity. Take this moment to ask yourself, what would the unstoppable version of me do today? If I already believed I was worthy, how would I show up differently? What would I stop apologizing for? Write it down. Read it back to yourself out loud. Then act like it's already true, because the only thing missing is your agreement. Reminder, I am no longer powered by approval. I move because I was born to. I act, not to impress, but to express who I've decided to become. I don't need to be unstoppable tomorrow. I choose to be unshakable today. Chapter 8. Effortless Alignment. What if you don't need to chase what's meant for you? What if the reason things finally start working is because you finally stopped resisting who you are? And what if alignment isn't found in hustle, but in harmony? Everything that is truly meant for you moves toward you, not when you chase it, but when you become aligned with it. This chapter is a reminder. You don't have to fight the current. Instead, trust that when your inner world is right, your outer world will reflect it. Let go of control. Embrace quiet confidence. Move in harmony, not in haste. You don't have to chase what's already yours. What is meant for you is already moving in your direction. You don't have to announce it, beg for it, or force it. You just have to be ready when it arrives. And readiness comes from silence, from focus, from faith. Let your silence build. Let your silence protect. Let your silence prepare. After the discipline, after the silence, after the inner work that no one saw, there comes a moment where everything begins to flow. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you did. You stopped moving from fear. You started moving from fullness. You stopped chasing outcomes. You started embodying the person those outcomes belong to. This is alignment, and alignment is power without pressure. It's movement without friction. It's clarity without chaos. You see, when you're out of alignment, even the smallest task feels heavy. You second-guess every decision. You question your worth. You wait for confirmation. But when you're aligned, you know what fits. You know what's yours. You know what no longer deserves your attention. Alignment turns effort into expression. You're not forcing success. You're reflecting your truth. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you're aligned with. And that's why the inner work matters. Because you can't live a peaceful life with a conflicted identity. You can't build a powerful future while clinging to powerless beliefs. So if you've been feeling resistance, maybe it's not because you're not working hard enough. Maybe it's because you're still trying to fit into a version of yourself you've outgrown. This is the season to shed, to simplify, to sync. Because you don't have to force what flows. Another. Practice alignment inventory. Today, ask yourself, where in my life am I still trying to force what no longer fits? What parts of me feel real, and what parts feel like performance? What would alignment look like if it felt easy? Then take one small action that reflects the real you, not the strategic you, not the curated you, just the grounded, aligned, undeniable you. Talk to yourself. I no longer chase, I no longer force, I move in alignment, not urgency. What's meant for me moves toward me, because I've become the person who's ready to receive it. Chapter 9. Let your success speak. What if the loudest thing you ever say is what your life becomes? What if the words you didn't speak became the echo they could never forget? And what if the silence you honored ends up speaking louder than any speech ever could? And now, after all the silence, after all the preparation, the moment arrives. This final chapter is the culmination, the moment when your work speaks louder than any words could, and it's undeniable, because when success arrives, it doesn't whisper. It roars, and the world listens. And when the time is right, you won't have to say a word. Your success will be the loudest voice in the room. Stay patient, stay grounded, stay silent, because while others are busy making noise, you're busy making progress, and when it's your time, the world will hear you. Quiet. You've stopped announcing and started becoming. And now? Now is not the time to talk. Now is the time to demonstrate. Because here's the truth. Most people miss. Your results are your voice. Your life is your argument. Your consistency is your proof. And your presence. Steady, grounded, unstoppable. Life shows. You don't have to convince when your habits reveal. You don't have to explain when your energy commands. The ones who used to doubt you, they'll ask how you did it. The ones who once ignored you, they'll study your moves. The ones who laughed at your silence will be silenced by your success. But you won't need to say a word, because your journey, not in noise, but in results. And when it does, you'll realize silence wasn't just a strategy, it was your secret weapon. The last practice, step into the echo. Close your eyes and visualize the version of you who no longer needs to talk, because their life resonates. The room you walk into, and don't say a word, but everyone feels your presence. The peace, the power, now move like it's already true, because it is. Remind yourself every day, I don't beg to be seen. I don't fight to be heard. I've built something they can't ignore. I move quietly. I rise steadily. And when the time comes, I don't speak. I echo. Let them wonder where your fire came from. Let them question how you moved so silently, so relentlessly, so effectively. You don't need to explain your journey, because your life, built in silence, will always speak loud enough for you. Let your silence build. Let your silence protect. Let your silence prepare. And then let your success speak.
Thank you for spending this moment with Awaken Light Audio. If something today touched your heart or opened your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments. What spoke to you most? Tell us about your journey, your questions. Send it their way, because light grows when it's shared. Until next time, stay present, stay awakened, and keep becoming who you're meant to be.